She was 93, frail but fierce, refusing to back down from the men threatening her home. Then her Navy SEAL grandson arrived, and the confrontation took a turn no one saw coming. Her name was Evelyn Marie Thompson, a 93-year-old black woman who had lived through segregation, civil rights battles, and the loss of her husband to cancer. In the summer of 2024, she was still in her modest two-bedroom home in Macon, Georgia, a place she had owned for over 6 decades. Evelyn was a pillar of her community, known for her sharp wit, her garden full of roses, and her refusal to be intimidated. Her grandson, Lieutenant Commander Nathan Thompson, was a 36-year-old Navy SEAL stationed at Naval Station Norfolk, Virginia, with a reputation for calm under pressure and a chest full of medals from missions he never spoke about. On a sweltering August afternoon, their worlds collided in a way that would shake their quiet neighborhood and make headlines. Evelyn's trouble began with a knock at her door. 2 men, representatives from a local real estate development company, stood on her porch, their suits ill-suited for the Georgia heat. They introduced themselves as Mark Davis and Stephen Holt, employees of Pinnacle Properties, a firm that had been buying up homes in Evelyn's historically black neighborhood to make way for a luxury condo development. The company had been pressuring residents for months, offering lowball prices and veiled threats about eminent domain. Most of Evelyn's neighbors had sold, worn down by the company's tactics, but Evelyn refused. Her home was more than bricks and mortar. It was where she raised her children, hosted church suppers, and buried her husband's ashes in the backyard under a magnolia tree. Davis, the older of the two, spoke first, his tone polite but patronizing. "Mrs. Thompson, we're here to make you a final offer," he said, holding out a contract. "This is more than fair for a house this old. You don't want to be the last one holding out." Evelyn, leaning on her cane, her eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, didn't budge. "I've told you people before," she said, her voice steady despite her age. "This is my home. I'm not selling. Not now, not ever." Holt, younger and less polished, stepped forward, his patience thin. "Look, lady, you're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "We can get the city involved. You'll lose the house anyway, and you'll get less for it. Be smart about this." Evelyn's grip on her cane tightened. She had faced down worse than these men. Jim Crow laws, landlords who tried to cheat her, bosses who underestimated her. "You don't scare me," she said, her voice low but firm. "This is my property, paid for with my husband's sweat and mine. You can't take it." The men exchanged a glance, their frustration clear. Davis tried a different tack, softening his tone. "Mrs. Thompson, think about your safety. A woman your age, living alone, it's not practical. We're offering you a way out." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "I've been living alone since my husband passed in '98, she said. "I'm just fine. Now get off my porch." Holt's temper flared. "You're being stubborn," he snapped. "We've got plans for this neighborhood, and you're in the way. You'll regret this." Evelyn didn't flinch. "The only thing I regret is letting you waste my time," she said. "Now go, before I call someone who'll make you leave." The men left, but not before Holt muttered a threat about escalating things. Evelyn closed her door, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. She called her grandson Nathan that evening, not because she was scared, but because she wanted him to know what was happening. Nathan, who was on leave after a deployment, listened quietly as she recounted the encounter. "I'm coming down, Grandma," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "Don't worry. I'll handle it." Nathan arrived in Macon 2 days later, driving a rental car from Atlanta. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with the disciplined posture of a SEAL and the quiet intensity of someone who had seen combat up close. He didn't advertise his status, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans, but his presence was commanding. Evelyn greeted him with a hug, her frail arms strong with affection. "You didn't have to come all this way," she said, though her smile betrayed her gratitude. "I wasn't about to let you deal with this alone," Nathan replied. He asked her for every detail, the men's names, their company, their threats. Evelyn handed him a stack of letters from Pinnacle Properties, each one more aggressive than the last. Nathan read through them, his jaw tightening as he recognized the pattern of intimidation. He had seen it before, not just in his grandmother's neighborhood but in communities across the country where developers preyed on vulnerable residents. The next morning, Nathan drove Evelyn to the county courthouse to file a formal complaint against Pinnacle Properties for harassment. The clerk, a woman named Joyce who had known Evelyn for decades, promised to expedite the paperwork. Nathan also reached out to a contact at the Department of Justice, a former SEAL who now worked in the Civil Rights Division. He didn't pull strings, but he made sure the right people knew what was happening. "This isn't just about my grandmother," he told his contact. "They're targeting an entire community." That afternoon, Davis and Holt returned to Evelyn's house, this time with a third man, Robert Klein, who introduced himself as Pinnacle's regional manager. They knocked on the door, their tone more forceful than before. Evelyn answered, Nathan standing just behind her, his presence unnoticed at first. Klein spoke, his voice dripping with false courtesy. "Mrs. Thompson, we've been patient," he said. "But we're moving forward with the development. Sign the contract, or we'll have to involve the authorities." Evelyn stood tall, her cane planted firmly in front of her. "You're not taking my home," she said. "I've already filed a complaint with the county. You're harassing me, and it stops now." Klein's smile faltered, but Holt stepped forward, his voice loud. "You're making a big mistake, old lady," he said. "We've got lawyers who'll bury you." That's when Nathan stepped into view, his 6'3" frame filling the doorway. "You're done talking to my grandmother," he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of command. The men froze, caught off guard by his presence. Nathan's eyes locked onto Klein's. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Nathan Thompson, U.S. Navy SEALs. You're threatening a 93-year-old woman in her own home. That ends today." The men stammered, their confidence crumbling. Klein tried to regain control, holding up his hands. "We're just doing business," he said. "No need to escalate this." "It's already escalated," Nathan replied. "You've been intimidating residents, pressuring them to sell their homes for pennies. I've got your letters, your threats, and witnesses who'll testify to your tactics. You're not dealing with just my grandmother anymore." Holt, still defiant, muttered something under his breath, but Davis grabbed his arm, silencing him. Klein forced a smile, backing toward their car. "We'll be in touch," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. They left quickly, their car peeling out as Nathan watched, his expression unreadable. Evelyn turned to him, her eyes twinkling. "You didn't have to scare them that bad," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "They needed to know who they're dealing with," Nathan replied, his tone softening. "No one's taking your home, Grandma." Over the next few days, Nathan dug deeper. He met with neighbors who shared their own stories of Pinnacle's pressure tactics, late-night calls, visits from inspectors claiming code violations, even hints of legal action. He organized a community meeting at the local church, where residents voiced their fears and frustrations. Nathan listened, taking notes, and promised to help. He contacted a local attorney, Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in property law and had a reputation for taking on corporate bullies. Sarah agreed to represent Evelyn and her neighbors pro bono, building a case against Pinnacle for harassment and predatory practices. The story spread through Macon, fueled by social media posts from neighbors and a local journalist who attended the church meeting. A viral video of Evelyn speaking at the meeting, her voice steady as she declared, "This is my home, and I'm not going nowhere," gained thousands of shares. Hashtags like #SaveEvelyn'sHome and #StopPinnacle trended, drawing attention from civil rights groups and even state officials. Pinnacle Properties felt the heat. The company issued a statement denying any wrongdoing, but the mounting pressure, combined with Nathan's involvement, forced them to back off. The county opened an investigation into Pinnacle's practices, and the Department of Justice launched a parallel inquiry into potential civil rights violations. Evelyn's home, and those of her neighbors, remained untouched. Nathan stayed in Macon for 2 weeks, working with Sarah and the community to strengthen their case. He also spent time with Evelyn, helping her tend her roses and listening to her stories of the past. She told him about the sit-ins she joined in the 1960s, the job she worked to buy the house, the love she poured into every corner of her life. Nathan, in turn, shared glimpses of his own world, missions he couldn't fully describe, comrades he'd lost, the pride he felt in serving his country. When Nathan returned to Norfolk, Evelyn's fight was far from over, but she wasn't alone. The community rallied around her, and Sarah's legal team secured an injunction halting Pinnacle's development plans pending the investigation. Evelyn continued to live in her home, her roses blooming brighter than ever. She kept Nathan's old Navy cap on her mantle, a reminder of the grandson who stood by her side. The story of Evelyn and Nathan became a beacon for others, a testament to resilience and family. It sparked conversations about gentrification, elder rights, and the power of community resistance. Evelyn, at 93, became an unlikely hero, her defiance inspiring those who heard her story. And Nathan, the SEAL who could face any enemy, found his greatest mission in protecting the woman who had raised him to be fearless.